Now I will be reading from Miss Costas Lesson 2, which starts on slide 15. I will start reading on slide 17, which is entitled Building Background. The setting is when and where a story takes place. When you compare and contrast settings, you consider how the scenes are alike and different. When you compare and contrast events, you consider how the things that happened are similar or different. Based on the information above, explain what is compare and contrast. Complete the sentence below to answer the question. In other words, compare is blank and contrast is blank. Looking at the details in a story will help you see the similarities and differences. On slide 18, there is a link for a video, and you are instructed to compare and contrast the country and city in the graphic organizer. Continuing on to slide 19 is some directions for close reading. It says during reading, you will be able to use the following close reading strategies by 1. Underlining key details that help you to summarize each paragraph. 2. Writing the main points of each section using the guided questions annotation. 3. Highlighting the unknown words and using context clues to figure out the meaning. 4. Using the word bank in the next page to know the meaning of highlighted words in the story. And 5. Reread to answer questions. On slide 20, Ms. Costas has included a word bank. It says use the word bank to know the meaning of the highlighted words in the story. The first word is grasp, and if we look across, going from left to right, we see that the definition is seize and hold firmly, like grasp something in your hand. A synonym for grasp is grab, and the part of speech is a verb. And an example is she is grasping the bottle. The next word is hunch over. The definition is to round one's back by bending forward and drawing the shoulders forward. So hunch is like this when you lean yourself forward. The synonym is hump, and the part of speech is a verb. An example is she leaned forward, hunching over her desk like this. Right? And the last word is British, and the definition of this is the people of Great Britain or the United Kingdom. A synonym is English, and a part of speech is noun. And an example is that in 1918, British women got the right to vote. So if we continue down on slide 21, the directions say underline the key details that help you to answer the questions. This story is called The Pocket Watch by Anthony McPherson. Margaret had gone out to the barn to fetch a pail of milk. On her way back inside, she gazed at the green and peaceful fields of her family's Connecticut farm. It was a sunny, mild day in April 1775, so calm compared with what Margaret feared might be coming. For just last week, fighting erupted between the British and the colonists in the towns of Lexington and Concord. Margaret wondered if there would be more fighting. Key question, how does the story begin? What is Margaret doing? How does she feel, and why? The main point you will write on that line. Continuing on slide 22, we see paragraph 2. Grasping the pail of milk, Margaret turned toward the house and went through the back door and into the kitchen, where her mother was preparing supper. The quiet she had experienced outside was shattered almost as soon as she set down the pail. Her 2 younger brothers, who were in the front room, began shouting and arguing. The sounds of a struggle began. Question, what do you think is the problem? And the main point you'll write on the line. Below that, we see paragraph 3. Margaret and her mother went into the dark, dusty front room to see what the fighting was about. George, the younger of the 2, was hunched over, clutching something in his shiny hand. William, a head taller than George, was clambering over his little brother, trying to pry the shiny object loose. "It's mine," shouted George, pulling away from his brother. "Father said I could carry it today." "Why should you get to? I'm older," shouted William. "It's mine by right." Question, describe the problem. The main point on the line below. Continuing on to slide 23, we read, "Boys," said their mother, "how can you fight over a timepiece when some of our neighbors have just lost their lives fighting the British?" George and William looked at each other and then looked down, ashamed. Margaret was glad when the 2 promptly apologized to each other and admitted it really didn't matter who got to carry the watch. Brother, they agreed, should not fight brother. Question, how is the problem solved? Main point you can write on the lines below. Below that it says explain what is the story about using the main points in each paragraph. On slide 24, it says complete the chart by comparing the settings and events of paragraph 1 with the setting and events of paragraphs 3 through 6. Complete paragraph 3 through 6. Paragraph number 1 is done for you. And paragraph 1, it says where, barn, and views of fields. Setting, a farm in Connecticut. Describe the setting and evidence, green and peaceful fields of her family's. So calm compared with what Margaret feared might be coming. Own words. It was a quiet place full of green and beautiful fields. Now you will do that for paragraphs 2 through 6 on the right-hand side of that slide. And on slide 25, there's a short response. Use the information in your graphic organizer. Slide 25, I think she means slide 24, to write a short paragraph comparing and contrasting the main settings of the pocket watch. Hint, try using terms such as however, although, but, on the other hand, while. Example, in the story, living in the city and the country are different. First, there are too many people living in the city while not many people living in the country. I know this because in the story, the author says the city is more populated than the country. In the story, The Pocket Watch, there are some differences between the Connecticut farm and Margaret's house. So that's the end of it. You will move on to the cool down. And I hope that you enjoyed the videos and they helped you. We'll see you next week.